Having seen other total solar eclipses from the ground, I decided this time I wanted to try it from the air, mainly to see the shadow effects of the shadow of the moon coming in over the landscape. The shadow is about 30 miles in each direction, so a little over 70 miles wide. So my plan was to fly along the eclipse path right on the center line and head towards the west, then turn around and watch the shadow recede. So I orbited over Athens, Tennessee at 10,000 feet and waiting for the shadow to arrive. So the towns you see around in here are around Athens, and that plume of white steam you see is actually the Watts Bar nuclear power plant. So as the time approached, you can see it's starting to get dark over in the distance, so behind the Watts Bar nuclear power plant, and the shadow is coming up towards me. So we'll just wait for it to come across, and then you'll see it come in and then recede. The real reason I chose this spot is I had programmed on my GPS everywhere from Carbondale, Illinois down to the coast, but it turned out this was the best relatively cloud-free position. The Cumberland Plateau looked pretty cloudy, and the mountains themselves, of course, in the Blue Ridge and Unicoi and also Nantahala around there all were fairly cloudy. So there was a nice open area in the Tennessee Valley, so I would just orbit around the Tennessee Valley waiting for it to come. And you'll see off in the distance the darkness, and there comes the shadow to the upper right, back behind the Watts Bar nuclear power plant. And now the shadow has arrived over there and starting to come across the Tennessee Valley. Since the width of the shadow at this point is around 71 miles wide, I can see more than 30 to 40 miles in each direction, so you'll always see that ring of light around. And as soon as the shadow sweeps across, you'll see street lights come on and the roadways get lit up. And now it's totality where I am. Shadow coming across, lights on in Athens. I was taking photos through the windshield of the cockpit, which will be at the end of this, and also the camera you're seeing is mounted on the wing strut. So this is a GoPro mounted on the wing strut, 5339er mic. And now to the far right, you see it's brightening as the shadow is leaving and sweeping across to the southeast. The sun is 64 degrees high in the sky, which means that from this angle, this strut-mounted camera, you can't see the sun itself. But again, at the end, I have some stills taken. And here comes the shadow sweeping back across, heading into the Smoky Mountains. Tennessee Valley being lit up. And as totality ends down below, shadow still keeps sweeping to the left to the southeast. And there's the shadow receding away from me. And all of the dark looking clouds now are in the shadow. And now the shadow's reached the Unicoi Mountains and into the Smokies. And as soon as it sweeps by there, you'll see the dark clouds are actually white clouds. They're just in the shadow. And at that point, the totality was over where friends and family were in Silva and Franklin, North Carolina. As the shadow rushes down towards South Carolina. And now as totality passes over the Smokies and starts to leave there, the clouds are whitening up. And soon you'll see the darker clouds again turn white too as soon as the shadow leaves. And again, this is now facing southeast along the path of totality on the center line. And the closer clouds have all turned white again. And now totality has passed by the Smoky Mountains. And in the next sequence, I have speeded this up 20 times, so it will all take place in just a few seconds, and that way you can more easily see the shadow just sweeping by underneath and receding into the distance. And the final clip, again in about 20 seconds after this, will not just be the sped up, but I'll have some of the still images of the corona, and I tried different exposures with the limited amount of time I had, and trying to get to the inner and outer corona, and then also in the ones that are a little bit shorter exposure, then you get to see a couple of solar prominences, the red thing sticking up, and that's where the coronal holes, where the little divots are in the corona. The coronal images, though, were taken through a plexiglass windshield, so a bit of a challenge.